What's up, friends? Are you guys tired? A little bit. Yeah. I'm gonna pick someone out who I think looks tired. You guys look alive, you look alive. Good, good. I'm gonna present ZK by Design. It'll be an exciting conversation, I promise, and tell you a little bit about Aleo, and that is where I work. So, by the way, how fun are these? It's foam, but you didn't even realize that. So Aleo is a layer 1 blockchain, and we are focused on private applications. I am head of community at Aleo, which means that I run all things ambassador program, and basically the 0 to 1 of when you get people into the door before they join your grants program or whatever program you have for them. How do you get them to be engaged and interested in what you are doing? How do I? Let me see. Is there a clicker? Beautiful, thank you so much. Okay, sweet. So, let's start. Evolution of Web 3 protocols, what we all love and what we are here for. DigiCash, anyone know what year DigiCash started? Come on, you can yell it, yeah. Yeah, it was one of the first. Your name is Ismail? MVP. It was one of the first peer-to-peer payment systems, and it started in 1989. This idea of, this kid's like, I knew that. This idea of digital gold is not new. This idea of digital fiat is not new. So in 1989, you have DigiCash. This lends the way for Hashcash, BitGold, all these things. In 2009, you have Bitcoin. You have Satoshi Nakamoto, who's like, screw the fact that inflation exists and all of these middlemen exist. Let's create Bitcoin. But the beautiful thing about Bitcoin wasn't actually this digital store of value. It was this crypto economic security that it provided, where you could have a system of incentives where you had miners and participants on the network that would ensure that the network became more and more secure through trustless and permissionless actions, which is a huge revelation. Then you have this, that also kind of gave way to all of Zcash, Litecoin, BitShares. Important to note Zcash because a lot of what Aleo is built off of, a good amount of it does come from Zcash and the way they do privacy preserving things. 2013-15, you have Ethereum. Ethereum's like, this is cool, but I want to take a computer and I want to put that computer on chain. And I want to make this whole blockchain programmable. So then this gives way to Cosmos, Polkadot, a whole bunch of things. And then you have Aleo. In 2018, this paper was authored called ZEXE, Zero Knowledge Execution. And Aleo said, okay, we're going to take that and we're going to make it a reality. The reason that I think this slide is so important is that a lot of these projects we're another L1. We're yet another L1. And people are like, yeah, but why are you trying to get rid of Ethereum or whatever? And Aleo is not getting rid of any of these previous projects. It's simply a step along the way in the evolution of kind of the Web3 technology that we have. So here's a little diagram for you guys. We have Bitcoin, which is public money. We have Zcash, which is private money. Ethereum, which is public apps. And where is this thing filled that is private applications? And that is what we think we are doing with Aleo. We are basically taking Ethereum and Zcash and we are making their baby and calling it Aleo. Another thing just to note here is that privacy is actually very hard. The first time zero-knowledge proofs were really used in crypto was for rollups, for ZK rollups on Ethereum, because the scalability aspect turned out to be a little easier than the privacy aspect because you didn't need to know as much about the ZKP part, and you could kind of just use it for scalability. And so privacy preserving aspect wasn't really around in early systems, neither Bitcoin nor Ethereum. And we truly believe that it is one of the absolute missing elements if we want to make, if we want blockchain to have any waves within bigger companies or even like with within regulations, privacy is super, super important. A big theme of this talk is going to be developer optionality, giving developers the option to choose how much privacy they want to include in an app or not. And along with that, we also want to kind of push this idea of compliant privacy, if you will. So governments that require information, how can we give them the information they need without necessarily needing to divulge everything and share all of this information that could harm individuals and their identity, not even harm, but just take from, right? How many of you guys know Netscape? Nice, you really aged yourself, wow. Netscape was one of the first companies in this whole like web world, right? And the reason Netscape is important is because they really push forward this idea of secure socket layer encryption. And with all of these ideas that Netscape was pushing, they were working for a more secure internet. I don't know if you guys know Mark Andreessen. He's one of the founders of A16Z, which is this investment firm in SF. He founded Netscape, which I recently learned, which I thought was hilarious, one of the founding members. But needless to say, there was all this attempt to keep the internet secure, and what this allowed for was to have like commerce on the internet and to make the internet what it is today, for better or for worse. So back to here, Alio, we're trying to do private applications. Two cool things about Alio is that, so we compute off-chain and we validate on-chain. And because you can run all of your computations off-chain, you don't need to pay gas fees. Gas fees are these fees that are in like Ethereum and other public L1s to basically prevent DDoS attacks and prevent anyone from subverting the network. And since you can run everything off-chain, you don't actually need to pay gas fee. You can also run things on-chain, of course, where gas fee would occur. And because of this off-chain ability, you can have unlimited application runtime, which might seem like not very important now, but it's becoming increasingly important the more like data intensive, or maybe like storage intensive applications that are potentially running on the blockchain, and also giving kind of the tooling for big ML models to run or whatever on chain. So basically Alio is everything that like a ZK rollup is, but it is embedded into its L1, and on top of that we basically tried to push this idea of developers being able to play with the amount of privacy that they want on chain. The cost of execution stays constant, whereas the cost of execution on a traditional blockchain like Ethereum, if any of you guys try to send money, then it is quite hefty. How many people pay their rent in crypto? Do you? Wow, that's impressive. No one's paying their rent in crypto. And I imagine we know other crypto people. How in the world are we not paying this simple thing in crypto, right? How many people bought a coffee today with Bitcoin? Yeah, insane. These small things that are just like, that are not happening at a small scale. And it's so important to first start at this small scale before getting to a point where sending one transaction costs 60 bucks. So Alio is rebuilding from the ground up for this permissionless, interoperable, and private system. Three components of Alio are SnarkOS, SnarkVM, and Leo. I will dive into these. SnarkOS is the blockchain. SnarkVM is our virtual machine. It is not EVM compatible. It is, we call it, it's more like an Alio virtual machine, zero knowledge virtual machine. And Leo, which is our DSL, domain specific language. This is basically what I said. So let's say that you guys are a developer. You want to write an application with some zero knowledge component, but you don't really want to code the intensity of the proofs. So we created this language called Leo. You want to write a simple program. You want to prove you know the sum of two numbers. Great. You write this out in Leo. Leo compiles down to Alio instructions, which gets turned into AVM opcodes. And basically, what you have is AVM opcodes, which then gets turned into R1CS, which is the stuff that proofs are made of. And the beauty of the Aleo virtual machine is that you have this translation between the world of zero-knowledge cryptography, that is, group elements defined over elliptic curves, interacting with the world of actual, like, a program output and computation. And so the virtual machine does this for you. Leo wanted to do away with the complexity of coding ZKPs, but still giving the developers the ability to use the powerfulness of this technology. Another cool thing is that we have a new data primitive called records. How many of you guys know about UTXO and account model? Most of you, maybe. Yeah. UTXO is what Bitcoin uses, the account model is what Ethereum uses, and Aleo uses records. Again, we use records with this intent for keeping privacy. Because the beautiful thing about a record is that it is included in a transition function, which is then included in a transaction. And so the only people who have access to these records are the people who have the view key for their record. We have this view key architecture, which ensures that you are the one who can see that record. The view key architecture also really helps with privacy compliance, where if a government needs to see a certain transaction or certain information about a transaction, you can choose how much of that information is shared. So again, kind of going back to SnarkOS, SnarkVM, and Leo. Talked about developers interacting with Leo. I'll talk about validators interacting with OS and provers interacting with SnarkVM. So you're a developer. You want to write a program. And this program is going to be hosted in our program registry. It's going to be hosted by our validators. It's basically a namespace. It's going to have a unique ID because we need to know what program we are interacting with. And the validators will host it. Now, if someone wants to use your program, there's going to be a caller request, and the prover is going to create the zero-knowledge proof from this program and the computation behind the zero-knowledge proof as well. So this prover basically says, okay, the cool thing about this is that you can be the prover. You can say, cool, I want to create a ZKP of this program. If you have the hardware and if you have the resources to do that, fantastic. You can be your own prover. You can give up no privacy whatsoever. You can give up all privacy. You can give up no privacy whatsoever to be your own prover. Now, if you want, though, if you're lazy or if you don't have the hardware, you can outsource proving. So this kind of prover as a service idea, where maybe you pay for someone to create your proof. Maybe you don't want to give them everything that creates your proof, so maybe you can give them a bit of the proof. Maybe you solve a bit of it and you give them the final bit to complete the proof. Maybe use multi-party computation to complete the proof. You can do it so there are ways where you're sharing out the burden of the proof, where the information isn't all just given. And the beautiful thing about that is that it incentivizes people to create better hardware for proofs. Because if you have a proving marketplace, you want to create the best proof for people to use, a proving system for people to use. Cool. And then the validators will update the state of the chain. By coming to consensus, we use Aleo BFT, which is a proof of stake architecture for consensus. Here it is again. We allow users to run zero-knowledge applications on the web. What can you actually do today? This is a question that everyone should be asking every single person all the time. What can you actually do today? This is a very important question. Today we are in testnet. We are in testnet, and we are in the final phase of our testnet, which means we are onboarding our validators. We opened an application for validators. We went through 7,000 applications. We selected 50 validators, and we are onboarding them to be on testnet and to be the validators. We are slated to do mainnet in January. That means in January, you should be able to deploy a private application on Aleo. And you can use our programming language Leo to do that. Through the testnet phase, we have run a prover phase, and we have run a developer phase, a developer incentive phase, where we had people write out applications, privacy-focused applications. We have, from that, even before that, we have a privacy NFT, which is very cool. We don't. One of our grantees created it. We have a whole bunch of stuff to check out. This card game called, I forget, Baloney. There you go. This card game called Baloney, which activates a ZK element. Because how many of you guys use an app every day that has ZK? None of you better raise your hands. Yeah, because it doesn't exist. Because what would you use it for? Again, what can I do today? This question needs to be asked so much more. This is a new model for decentralized computation. When you look at Ethereum and when you look at Aleo, there's a lot of similarities. Both have validators, both have developers. The big difference is the roll-up architecture and the proving architecture. Roll-ups are mainly meant for scaling. Yes, there are some attempts to drive privacy in with ZKPs and Ethereum, but this is why Aleo was built from the ground up, because we said, okay, if you want privacy, you really need to build it from the ground up. So yeah, there's private Web3 applications out there that you guys can build. And what do they look like? Sure, they can be any of these things. They can also be anything else. I don't know if the thing about existing applications is that when you add ZKPs, they need to be so much, the application needs to be better. It needs to be better in order to convince someone to go to it. We all care about privacy. We're all sitting here. I don't know if the rest of the world cares about privacy as much as we care about privacy. I don't think they care about privacy enough to make it inconvenient for them. So if there's an application out there that adds a ZKP to it and it slows the application down by 10 minutes, good luck getting people using it. But if there's an application that has privacy embedded in it, where it is actually more convenient for me to use that application than some mediocre application where privacy is not embedded in it, now I want it. And again, this goes back to developer optionality, where they can choose how much privacy they want in a system. Fully private applications, that can happen. So zero-knowledge token swaps, decentralized exchanges. This is actually a really cool thing because you would get rid of once was minor extracted value, minimum extracted value, and front running. Obviously, with stablecoins, you guys know USDC, you guys know USDT. If you could have a privacy-compliant stablecoin, I don't know about your governments, but US government would love that. So just understanding ways where you can actually offer these things to people beyond crypto. You guys smell that? For it to be successful. Okay. With Aleo, web developers can finally build trustless web services once again. Zero-knowledge gaming, machine learning, ZK authentication. I'll just touch on ZK authentication because we have this thing called ZPass that we launched, which was basically an identity, ZK identity. We do a lot of KYC, not to brag, and it's a horrible experience, and we use terrible third-party people, and we are trying to understand a way to basically do KYC without requiring to keep all of this information from people. We're a privacy blockchain. It's so ridiculous that we need to ask all of this information from people just to pass their KYC, and yet, right now, we have no better option. How can you guys get involved? Thank you so much for asking. That's a great question. Here are 3 different ways. We have a grants program. We have a lot of resources for those grantees, and we have a great team of BD that runs that. They are here in Istanbul. They'll be here for the week. Actually, here is where they will be from November 15th to the 18th. We have a ZK hackathon, and each day you can earn up to quite a bit of money with different ways of kind of engaging, you building out ZK apps and stuff. So we have a Learn and Earn on November 15th. We have a Hacker House on November 16th. We have ZK Talks on November 17th, where I will be moderating a panel with Alex Pruden, who's our CEO. He's the man, the myth, and the legend, and someone from the StarkNet team, which is going to be very interesting because they are building a ZK EVM, and we are building a ZK VM. And I know that that one letter may seem like it doesn't mean much, but it truly means everything. And understanding what are the actual trade-offs behind using an L1 that is privacy-focused versus an L2 that is privacy-focused, I think is absolutely crucial and something that anyone who's thinking about building and anyone who is thinking about doing anything in this space whatsoever should have an understanding of why they picked what they picked. My friends, I think that's it. That's my Telegram. Feel free to reach out if you have questions and everything. I know it's the last one, so thank you all for sticking around. And yeah, have a nice rest of your day.